Roxy presents...
Captain, are you ready for the obligatory tutorial level?
Alright, but let's make this quick. I got dozens of pirate cats to vaporize, and I reckon everyone playing this is already sporting a pre-game stiffy.
Don't worry, Captain. There will be something to jerk off to as soon as you complete the mission and return to the Mary Celeste.
Boyos, have you ever wondered what it'd be like to command your own spaceship crewed by a bunch of hot alien babes all ready to suck your... Well, neither have I, because I was raised as a good Catholic boy, but for the sake of the video, let's just pretend that would be something you're into. Because today we're talking about Subverse, a game developed by Studio FOW, who are best known across the internet for such gems as Complete Anal Penetration, Circle of Life, and for being banned off Patreon for creating a video of a woman and a werewolf. Let's say they were procreating. Subverse's creation began on Kickstarter with a very successful campaign of nearly 60,000 horny individuals pledging over $1.5 million toward the creation of a game penned as a kinky sci-fi RPG mashup with a galaxy full of hot alien babes to discover. What's not to love about that? 2 years after the game was kickstarted, we got an early access release in 2021, and 2 years later, the game is still in development with significant updates coming out along the way. So after all this time, how is it? Well, it sucks, and for more reasons than one. So, grab some gamer grub, sit down, relax, and let me tell you all about my experience with the game.
Absolutely bloody amazing. You can really feel the buttery nuttiness coming through now, yeah? Good. Unfucking fortunately, the Baron of the Spice Cartel won't sell them to me in bulk because I fired his idiot nephew for serving food that was fucking raw. Hey, I also called his minging wife a cunt sandwich, but that's beside the point, yeah? Chop chop, we're on the clock. Get down there, get my spices from those fucking idiots, and let's fire up this filler quest chain.
To begin, let's talk premise. Why are we here, and why does this robot have a huge pair of knockers? I mean, just look at these things. What were we supposed to be talking about again? Oh yeah, the premise. So you play as the captain, former head of security of New Vegas.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
No, not that one. Who after a string of good luck, ends up as the owner of the spaceship the Mary Celeste. And yes, if you're wondering, that is a pair of underwear on his face, and no, I won't elaborate on why he's wearing them. The captain pilots the Mary Celeste alongside Demi, a hyper-advanced android who, Together they set out on a quest to destroy the Imperium, a galactic sovereign state controlling the population through highly conservative law. Basically, they're a bunch of no-fun-allowed prudes. Overthrowing a galactic empire isn't easy, and you'll spend most of the game recruiting new waifus and allies along the way. Some of which include Lily, a genius geneticist who wants to suck your...
Mortal danger and adrenaline have a way of getting me turned on to the point that I can barely think of anything other than getting absolutely pounded.
Hilly, a former pirate queen who also wants to suck your...
I have a different kind of penetration in mind.
And Sova, a royal princess who also wants to suck your... Well, you get the point, you see where I'm going, right? Over time, you'll recruit a large selection of characters who will help you in various ways as you deal with the many enemies you'll find scattered across the Prodigium galaxy. In general, the premise is pretty enticing for many reasons, and while I came into the game with a good attitude, by the end of my 20-something hour run, I was left feeling disappointed with the overall outcome of the game. So, to begin, let's start with the gameplay, easily the biggest issue I have with the game.
Did the Imperium just save our lives?
Is this an appropriate time for a phrase such as, holy cocksucking shitballs of fuck?
I'd have to say so.
There's no nice way to put this. The gameplay is, well, it's fucking shit. It's split into two main sections, space combat and on-the-ground turn-based combat. Let's talk turn-based combat first. Not because it's the better of the two, but because it's the one I hated the most. I played this game for over 20 hours, and it never gets better than this, save for a couple moments. At the start of combat, you pick your waifu, yes waifu, it says it right there, with each one having two unique basic abilities and two unique special moves at their disposal. Outside of the specials, it's pretty straightforward. Ability 1 is usually a basic melee or ranged attack, and the other is generally a buff or a debuff of some kind. Generally, a good offense is your best defense, so despite your already limited options, usually I found myself just mindlessly attacking everything on sight, and that got me through about 99% of the encounters in the game. Alongside your waifu, you'll also pick up 3 manticores to assist you in combat. What's a manticore, you ask? Well, they're strange hybrid abominations created by Lily, and when I say strange and abomination, I still might be underselling it a little bit. Jesus Christ, how horrifying. These nightmare-inspiring creations each have their own style, some being ranged, some being tanks, and some being useless pieces of shit. There's a good amount of variety here, but honestly, I just wish you could pick from your waifus instead. I really don't want to play as the weirdo goon squad here. I want the midget alcoholic in my party, not this weird dolphin man who keeps visiting me in my dreams. It's just a very strange design choice which could be said for most of the things in this game. Speaking of design choices, I really wish whoever decided that waves of enemies should randomly spawn around your team as you're playing was fired. It pretty much throws any sense of strategy out the window when a team of enemies can spawn on top of you and just instantly start murdering your crew. To be fair, the game does give you a heads up that new enemies are spawning, but because you're locked into this tiny arena, all you really know is that new enemies are spawning and you're going to be in for a bad time.
Oh my god!
This was easily the most frustrating part of the game, and all in all, I really think the turn-based combat is a complete dud. The devs have made updates talking about the future of the game as well as improvements to the gameplay, but I don't really see how they can even attempt to make this more engaging without completely scrapping it and doing it over again. Luckily, even they know how annoying the turn-based combat can be, so there's an option to just completely skip a section after enough failed attempts. I only used this one time just to get through an annoying boss fight, but it's a nice option to have when you just want to get to the next level and not deal with whatever this is. Space combat is significantly better and more polished than its turn-based counterpart, but it's got its own set of issues. At the beginning of each mission, you yet again pick from your roster of waifus, and while each one has the exact same basic firing mode, each waifu comes equipped with her own unique secondary attack. There's a decent variety to choose from, ranging from close-range shotgun blasts and sword swipes to longer-range projectiles like missiles and lasers. And each one is at its worst usable, and I mostly picked which waifu I wanted based on the enemies I expected to fight. The gameplay itself is a safe and standard shoot-'em-up, occasionally requiring some calculated finesse if you want to survive, but after dozens and dozens of encounters, it gets repetitive very quickly. The waifus don't really add enough individually to make each fight entertaining, and outside of select story missions, each fight is boiled down to just fighting mindless waves of enemies over and over again. The easy fix to this would be to shorten the number of waves because in its current state, this feels like a complete drag. As it stands, each encounter just overstays its welcome a little too long, and that wouldn't be such a bad thing if you didn't have dozens of these missions to do. At the very least, the enemy variety is decent, and that's the one saving grace I can say about the space combat. Different galaxies have different enemies with their own unique styles of combat, so it's not terribly mundane, but by the time I get to the 4th and 5th wave, I'm ready for it to be over. This could be improved if your ship got new and interesting upgrades along the campaign, but the best you can look forward to are some generic percent-based upgrades like shooting slightly faster or having slightly stronger shields. Nothing really exciting. Occasionally you'll get some variety in the story with missions that require you to be stealthy or complete a particular objective, and it does a decent job of breaking up the monotony you'll quickly experience. But this is kind of like eating a bread and butter sandwich for a month straight, and then finally being offered a bologna sandwich to change things up. I mean, I like bologna, but come on, we can do better. On a positive note, the boss battles are well made and it's easily the most fun and engaging part of the game. The fights are pretty challenging and letting your guard down can lead to a pretty quick death. The story-based combat missions and the boss battles are definitely where the game shines, so eventually I just avoided all the side combat missions and focused primarily on the main story beats, and my enjoyment of the game definitely improved. All in all, I think the game really suffered from the developer splitting their resources into two separate game modes. Space combat is miles ahead of the slow and boring turn-based combat, and they would have been much better off investing all their time into one or the other. Instead, we have two shallow game modes when we could have had one decent one, and the game suffers a lot because of this. To give them some credit, this is Studio FOW's first time making a video game, so naturally things aren't going to be perfect. But on the other hand, this is a $30 game, and at that price tag, I'm expecting a little bit more than just this.
People try to tell me that I don't have the copyright. I shouldn't need the copyright. I've been shitting out content for Subverse for years. And now, I'm no longer the top search result on the HoloNet. After all my hard work, everyone that looks from my network is just gonna get a face full of alien titties and dongs. I don't want to be associated with porn.
Well, let's talk story. You definitely don't go into this game expecting some high fidelity space opera type shit, but it definitely exceeded my expectations. The story doesn't break any new ground, but it's genuinely fun playing as an alcoholic captain scouring the universe for new hot chicks to join his uprising. The cutscenes themselves are all well made, and everything is both 3D animated and fully voiced, which is actually pretty impressive. I'm not going to get too into the details of the story, but it does go into some fun and interesting places, and you get to see the conflict between each faction from all angles. As of the time of me making this video, the story isn't fully finished, but it seems like they only have the final act left to tell, and across the 20 or so hours I've played, they've managed to get me engaged with the story enough to be interested to see how it all ends. There's everything you'd expect. Deception, sacrifice, weird sex stuff. It's got a little something for everyone. As far as the negatives go, a lot of the humor, especially in the first half of the game, can be pretty juvenile, but I review erotic video games in my spare time, so what the hell do I know?
Spread your slutty cheeks for daddy and bite down. I am going in raw. Lubrication is available for a search engine. Eat my fat pussy, piece of shit!
Some of the motley cast of crew members you recruit can be a bit annoying at first, but by the time I got to the end of the game, I really grew to appreciate each character and the strange quirks they brought along with them. Some just want to fuck other aliens without any restrictions, and others are just looking to get revenge to right past wrongs. So yes, even though this doctor may just seem like a crazy large-chested nympho who's sleeping with her lab creations, she's also a vulnerable woman seeking redemption. Wild, I know, but in all, the characters are pretty solid, and the story itself is solid, so across the board, I was satisfied by Studio FOW's efforts.
Attention, semen smoking kids danglers. Trespassing carries a heavy penalty. Enjoy our complimentary maximum cock-suck party.
Now with bonus hair massage.
It's to die for.
Sweet Sheila Snatch. We landed on planet Fuckbot.
This can't be happening.
Pretty hard to deny the rocket launching nipples if you ask me.
Let's talk graphics. Like the story, we all know this isn't the biggest priority for this type of game, so I'll keep it brief. The game was created using Unreal Engine, so while there's no guarantee that the gameplay made with the engine is going to be satisfying, you can rest assured that the game is going to look good at worst. The interior of your ship, the Mary Celeste, which you'll spend plenty of time navigating in, has plenty of personality in each section. Space combat is flashy, and despite how chaotic it can get at times, the visual clarity is sharp, and I always felt like I was in control and aware of what was going on around me. Character models are also well made, and while there are a few characters that make you question the limits of human anatomy, there is a good variety of designs that make you feel like you're a part of an alien universe. Though every scene with this robot kinda threw me out of the moment because he looks like he came from an entirely different game. And finally, the ground combat doesn't look great, but whatever, it sucks anyway, so who cares? The point I'm trying to make is the game looks decent, and it's the least of its issues.
Alright, I better get back to the capital. Got a lot of convincing to do.
Wait, there's just one more thing before you go.
Sure, what's up?
Show me your dick.
What?
Next on the plate is the adult section of the game, most of the reason you probably clicked on this video in the first place. I gotta tiptoe around this one naturally because you know how YouTube can be, but let's just say these animated scenes are pretty well produced. Studio FOW has years of experience with this kind of stuff, and these guys are like the Emerald Lagasse of cooking up raunchy scenes. BAM! It's all high quality stuff, but a good chunk of the scenes involve some of the manticores, and man, you really gotta be a strange lad to be getting off to this stuff on a regular basis. But again, who am I to judge? If the idea of a space elf getting railed from behind by a shark man with perfect abs is your thing, well, you'll feel right at home here. I've seen a few complaints online saying that the adult stuff seems disconnected from the main game, but I think they did an okay job with it. The game has a lot of problems, but I think they handled this portion of the game just fine. Before I go into the closing portion of the video, I do want to say the music in this game is pretty damn good, and I enjoyed most of what they offered. Okay, let's wrap this up because I know you're all excited about that whole Sharkman affair, and I'm sure you're downloading the game as I speak, so I'll keep it short. Subverse is a pretty flawed game, especially at its current asking price of over 10,000 Zimbabwean dollars, so it's a hard game to recommend. Without good gameplay, it just feels like an absolute chore to get through the story and experience any of the raunchy stuff it has to offer. I originally started playing this game last year, and it's taken all this time to basically force myself to trudge through the game, just so I could say I made this video. I'd like to be optimistic as they know the current gameplay loop is lacking, but it's hard to expect them to do a complete gameplay overhaul when they're so close to actually finishing the game. It's their very first game though, and there's definitely some good ideas here, so I look forward to whatever Studio FOW cooks up in the future. So boyos, that's my Subverse review. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.